This show is sponsored by Horizon HVAC, who you can count on for all of your heating and cooling needs. Well, we're back with the Mindset Radio podcast, sitting here with Justin Freishtat from, you came all the way out here from Vegas.
Yep. Well, Nashville today, but
Nashville?
yeah,
I love
splitting
Tennessee.
time. Nashville, Vegas. It's
What were
kind
you
of
doing out in
50-50.
Nashville?
And we got two companies that are based there, so that's why I'm spending a ton of time.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. So, Justin, you started, what was the first kind of business that you got into that really made you say to yourself that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and you wanted to get into making money for yourself?
I'm going to say it was in college when I was failing because I was using the recording studio on campus to record rappers instead of doing my music work. That's probably when it started.
So, it's funny, when I was younger, I really was into music. I loved producing.
Yep,
back
me
in the
too.
Fruity Loops days. I loved making beats, and I even made music, with my friends. And I was always that guy that, had a computer with a little mic that, all the local rappers would come and record, and I'd have the Fruity Loops and all my system, you know what I mean? It was a lot of fun, and that brought me into meeting a lot of cool people that were in that field as well. So.
Yeah, it was great. I was a music major and quickly figured out you can't really make a lot of money unless you're a unicorn in the music world. So I was like, all right, this dream's dead.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
Back then was totally different than now. I mean, I think now these kids have a little bit more of a chance just because of all the outlets that we have. I mean, I think that if we had back then, the Instagrams, the
TikTok for sure,
all this stuff,
Yeah.
you have a little bit of a better chance being not somebody that's in that culture, I guess you could say, to make it. So I think the kids now have a really unique opportunity to really do a different variety of things and be successful in those things.
Yeah, I know my favorite independent artist is Ollie Joseph. He lives in Nashville, and I just met up with him the other day, and he's telling me like, yeah, I've made like total financial freedom out of this thing.
Yeah.
Just streaming off Spotify and all the different places you can get paid for being an independent artist.
Yeah. So where did you go from college?
College, so dropped out for door-to-door sales.
That's
in,
where,
like,
that's where you
year
got the sales
5.
itch.
yeah.
Yeah, started just knocking doors in the summer, and by the end of the summer, I was probably on pace to make, I don't know, $40,000, which was more than all my friends graduating. So I was like, I don't need this degree. I'm going to go all in on this. And never look back.
Wow.
Nice.
You were the owner of Heartland Foods. Talk a little bit about that and how you got involved in that.
So my dad started the business.
Okay.
Well, let's say he actually bought it out of bankruptcy. So after he got out of his first few businesses, he was like, what am I going to do next kind of thing. And he liked that direct sales model. That's what he started with in the blind industry. So he bought Heartland Foods. It was called Dutterer's Foods back then. This was in 2001, 2002. Bought that out of bankruptcy. It was a truck, a customer list, and maybe like 1 or 2 employees. So he was getting that going, and I was working the warehouse, packing orders, doing deliveries, and then eventually went to build the whole sales and marketing side of the industry or the business. And I guess that was 20 years total from start to exit out to private equity at the end.
Were you involved in any other companies or any other businesses during that time?
No, I was all in on one thing for a decade.
Talk about how important that is for entrepreneurs and focusing on one thing instead of being scattered and having multiple different things at a time.
Yeah, what I think about with this is also the advice that you hear. I'm glad you asked it that way, because typically we give advice from where we are in the journey, and most people should not be listening to what's good for me right now. Right? It's about what I did for 10, 15 years to get to where I am.
Yeah.
So the advice is you need to work your ass off. Like, you don't have skills. You can't go do big things yet. So you have to, whatever pond you can get into. Is it selling knives door to door? I mean, the common theme of everybody who's super successful did something like that in the beginning. So nothing's above you. Humble yourself. Go get in the trenches. I don't care if you're selling phones at Verizon. Be the very best. And then when you max out the potential of that vehicle, find a new one you can get into and go max out the potential in that vehicle. And you keep laddering up until you're in a vehicle where you can make 7, 8 figures.
Yeah, because the skills that you ultimately learn during that 20-year process, you're able to use those skills in whatever other venture you end up doing. And you'll be surprised the skills that you learn from one business that can carry on to another business. Like marketing, branding. Did you expect to get into the food business? Was that something that you were thinking of doing before it even happened?
No chance. I was just looking for opportunity. I was a kid that was kind of lost, terrible grades, thought that there was no place for me in the world. I thought I was going to be a failure in life, and sales saved my life. It was a non-traditional path, but I think it's more acceptable these days to, start a YouTube channel when you're a kid or do all these other things. But when we were kids, it was, if you don't go to college, your life's over.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it wasn't working out for me and I had a 1.9 GPA, I was like, I just might not make it in life,
Yeah. I don't think kids have that mindset now. Like you said, it's like back then it was like college was the way that you were going to end up making a living. And then if not, you're like, oh, maybe I'll do construction and, just pay my bills and get by. Like my son is 14 years old and he knows that he doesn't need to go to college because there's so many other avenues that he can get involved in. He sees that. So when you ended up getting into the food industry, I want to touch on the food industry a little bit and kind of, where it's at now. And, we kind of talked earlier before we went on air about like what's real, what's not anymore. When did you start noticing, there was some weird stuff going on in the food industry while you were involved in it?
Yeah. So once I decided to go all in on it, like one of my philosophies in sales is you don't need sales skills, you need subject matter expertise more than anything. And then just the authenticity of who you are should be enough to sell. Like you shouldn't have to convince people to do anything.
To know the business inside and out and know the product you're selling.
Right. So I started looking at the whole supply chain. Where does this food come from? Why is ours better? What's different than the store? It came down to things like the packaging. Like ours didn't have phthalates or BPA. And then you go to this, you look at what's in the store and people are buying organic food that's in chemical packaging. Like that makes any sense. Right. All the way down to, okay, what's the breed of these animals? I didn't know that there were 600 different breeds of cattle out there. They all taste different, have different health properties. Like it's crazy how deep it gets. And that's essentially what I did, was just get obsessed with the supply chain from where the food starts, how it ends up on your table. And that was my entire sales process. This is the food delivery industry. The door-to-door started back in the 80s. Colorado Prime was a $100 million company, and it was very old school the way I was taught. And I kind of flipped the whole thing from, that traditional, like sleazy door-to-door sales model to an education-based model where we were really teaching people how to eat, how to source. And then obviously we're the answer because you can't get this stuff anywhere else. And then the sale would naturally happen. I closed at 87%. And that's kind of unheard of in door-to-door.
That is unheard of. I mean, what is it usually, 30%?
Yeah, it's low. It depends on the product, right?
Yeah.
But in our business, if you could sell at 50% once you're in someone's home, that's really good.
How did you learn that skill? How did you acquire that skill? Is that something that was self-taught? Did you have a mentor?
100% self-taught. My mentor is like the whole rule of 5, the proximity thing.
Who you surround yourself with?
Yeah, I think people think of that in a literal, in a physical way. For me, it was, well, I'm not successful enough to go hang out with gurus. I don't have enough money to pay for coaching for gurus, but whenever I'm in my car, they're going to be in my ears, right? So, I mean, doing door-to-door sales, driving 50,000 miles a year on the car, that's the university on wheels, right? So it was Brian Tracy, it was Zig Ziglar, Grant Cardone, like all these guys. Yeah. I've read all their books over and over and over, and I spent more time with them. They didn't know it, but but I spent more time with them than my friends, family, anything. And I think that really, kept me in the grind to build what ended up being built.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who say he was kind of my unofficial mentor. Like he didn't know that he was my mentor, but he was. Like a lot of people equate Tony Robbins to that. It's that guy's just a handful of knowledge, and I didn't even know that how long he's actually been doing it. I mean, we saw a video of him the other day, and he was like, I don't know, 20-something years old, pushing the same message. I think that it's the consistency. And that's my favorite word is consistency. I think if you're consistent enough with anything, you're going to pick it up and end up becoming really good at it. If you put the homework behind it and you really find out like what you did, you learned that there was 600 different types of cattle. I mean, that's something that, is super important in business. The more you know that business, the better you're going to become. And talk about the sales and being authentic in sales and like how you have your typical salesman who is pushing the product based on their overall sale or pushing the product because they know that they have something great.
Yeah, most salespeople are going to listen to sales trainings. They're going to try and figure out how to use their tie downs or rephrase their statements, right, to lead to a result, which there's merit to that. That's one way to make sales. But it's not a sustainable long-term way to get referrals, right? I don't want a sale unless that person feels amazing about it and wants to tell all their friends and family. So for me, it was like, I need to just be a great dude, really know my stuff so that I'm the dinner conversation tomorrow. That's the way I looked at it. And if they buy it, great. If they don't buy it, they're a loss. I know I have the best product. And a lot of times it might not be a good fit for some people. You know, not everybody cooks at home. Like, you know, to buy that product, you had to be a family that cooks at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think people approach this thing completely backwards. It's like if you look at your presentation and you really know your stuff, it should be about, okay, well, what are the things that are going to be a concern to this family? Like, we want to call them objections, but I think they're more of complaints, you know, until they're fully validated. Like, I never accept like when someone pukes out and says, oh, it's expensive. It's like, yeah, I agree. Here you go. Keep going. And you just keep going, right? You just agree and keep going. If it comes up again, oh, it might actually be an objection. But if you really know your stuff and you're just there to serve them and you get ahead of those things and you bring them up on your terms and handle them the way you want to, when you get to the end, it really shouldn't even, really shouldn't even have to ask.
Yeah. It's such a good point. I was sitting with a customer yesterday and, you know, we quoted them on a new air handler, a new condenser. And she was like, well, this is really, really expensive. And I said, yeah, well, unfortunately, that's why I'm in this business. I said, it's a very profitable business, you know, but I don't make the prices. The prices are what it is. And, you know, I wasn't trying to sell them on the sale. I was trying to sell them basically on, you know, you're having a really good company, install your product. We give it, you know, the warranties are valid. We check on our, you know, we're a reputable company. And if they say yes, then great. If not, then we just keep it moving. We're not one of those companies that really push it down your throat and say, we need the sale, we need the sale. And I found that since I started using that method, our sales have definitely increased because I feel like it's more authentic. You know, you're not being that typical salesman. And I think that style of sales is kind of dying a little bit. You know, that really pushy style of sales. Let's get to organic food, like the difference between organic and real food. When we go to the store and we look at a package and it says organic, how much truth is there to that?
It's a very complicated conversation. We could go on for hours, but organic is just it's a certification, right? One of the first organic feeds that was approved by the FDA for chickens was arsenic-based. It's like arsenic's an organic compound that can kill you. So just because it's organic doesn't mean you want to ingest it.
Meaning there was actual arsenic in the food?
Yeah, because it's organic.
But now they just pump the chickens with the arsenic, basically, so they don't have to.
Well, now it's a breeding
They
thing.
breed them, right?
Yeah.
They breed them differently.
Yeah.
They breed them differently in order to say that it's organic?
I mean, organic just means what they fed them was organic. So let's say it's a corn and soybean feed. As long as you use organic, you know, feed, then it's organic.
That's
it's still a breed modified chicken that's designed to go, you know, 3 times the size in like 70 days. So those birds can't even walk. So they have a lot more fat. Like, so I would rather have a heritage breed chicken that ate GMOs than an organic, you know, feed in a terribly bred bird.
Yeah.
That's true. And I was just reading just the other day because we just started having Wagyu beef and we thought, you know, it's incredible. You know, you're paying $200 for this little tiny piece of meat. And come to find out, Wagyu beef is really not even good for you because they can't do the things that regular cows do in order to process and filter the food. So the meat is actually less of a benefit to our body. It's not processed the way it should be. So
cows are ruminant animals, which means they have multiple stomachs, right? So they need that natural diet of grass to cleanse themselves and stay healthy. When we feed them corn, soybeans, Wagyu, I mean, some of these farms are doing beer and barley.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, it's just going to have a much higher content of omega-6 fats that just aren't good for you.
Being in the food industry, how has that shifted how you eat today?
I think for me, it was being in the food industry and the health side. All of our partnerships are with dietitians, trainers, gym owners. So I got to be around everyone in that space and just learn how to eat, how to train, you know, all the different philosophies. And I just learned that there's so much bio-individuality in all of us that if anybody says to you the keto diet or the Mediterranean or whatever, like just ignore them. It's just, you got to figure out which one's going to work for your bio-individuality. And that's kind of like we were talking about earlier where the intense blood work and the peptides and all these, you know, things come into play. You know, if you really want to be optimized, yes, diet's important, but if your hormones aren't correct, if your gut isn't right, I mean, you can't even absorb the calories.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you got to start there, actually.
Yeah.
The gut.
Just in the HRT peptide space, I think is where everyone should start.
So you generated $87 million in revenue before the acquisition in 2022. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned building that company to that size?
The biggest lesson was you don't need to do that to be very successful. I mean, it was a very labor-intensive business. Trucks on the road, employees packing orders, big utility bills, walk-in freezers, toll bills, gas bills. Like, it's just thin margins. You got a perishable product that can go bad if, on the road, orders, trucks break down, summertime. Like, it was just a constant nightmare with thin margins. So, you can be doing a lot of revenue and be completely stressed out as a business owner and not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest lesson for me, was the vehicle is the most important choice. The same skill set will translate into you making hundreds of millions of dollars or making nothing. Like, it's actually not how good you are at something. It's the right vehicle, people being in the market. That's the most important thing. If you have to create the market, this is the number one thing I learned. Nobody woke up in the morning and said, I want 6 months of food delivered from farms in a stand-up freezer in my garage. Nobody Googles that, right? Somebody's HVAC breaks, they Google it and they find you, right?
Yeah.
So here's a lead. Now you can go be great at what you do. We had to create the market.
Wow.
Right? So what happened was the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden the whole world doesn't want to go to the grocery store and they're looking for delivery options.
And there was your exit.
Wow.
We cut our marketing spend to zero. The company triples in size, and boom, there's your exit.
There's your exit.
Because the whole world was in the market. So it was a massive lesson for me of whatever business I go into, the market needs to be there without me having to create it.
Had the pandemic not hit, would you still be in the smart? Would you still
Probably would still be there.
Wow,
That's
incredible.
incredible. What a blessing. Yeah.
Huge lesson.
So do you think you scaled too big, too quick?
No.
No way.
Perfect. I mean, it sounds.
The growth almost broke us. Like, we couldn't even fit 1 day of inventory in that walk-in freezer when the pandemic hit. We didn't have enough trucks. We didn't have enough employees. I mean, it worked out perfectly because the warehouse was in Baltimore at the time, and all the restaurant workers that got laid off, we hired them all to drive trucks, pack orders. Like, so while everybody's sitting at home during the pandemic, I worked from, I think it was like February when it hit. I worked around the clock, 0 days off until about summertime.
That's incredible.
And and then private equity came in and wanted to buy it in a bubble, and it was a
Just rolled it up,
massive
and that was
blessing.
it.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
So you ended up shifting to an investor and a fund manager after that, correct?
Yep.
What made you make that decision? And I was talking to a friend yesterday about the difference between making money, keeping money, and making more money with that money. Those are totally different things.
Yep.
What's the easiest one, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure any of it's easy.
Easiest one. Or easier one.
I think keeping it's the easiest. If I had to pick one, but it's just that's not really, I think, the right question, because it's like every founder, almost all of them will lose their net worth once.
Yeah.
Right? Because the skill sets that got you that capital, that's, you're an outlier in terms of earning compared to the rest of the planet. That same skill set is why you're going to lose it if you don't change.
Yeah.
Because you're used to taking risk. You're used to failing, and you can't do that with money. Right? So now you make your money, you have it, keeping it, and then multiplying it's a completely different discipline.
It's harder almost, I think.
I think it is harder for our personality types.
Yeah.
Like people that are hard charging, taking risks, entrepreneurs in the trenches all day, like go. Money's a game of patience.
Yes.
It's very different.
Warren Buffett, I've learned a lot from Buffett, and his biggest thing is patience. Stocks is basically transferring money from the impatient to the patient. That's really how you make money in the market. I don't know one person, that is a day trader or trades the market actively that is, can be more successful than somebody who just buys, holds, and believes in that company long term.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm learning. The money that we're accruing, it's we're trying to put it in some different yield maxes and ETFs and trying to, make as much dividend as possible off of that money. But it's hard. It's hard to, to equate that, especially like you said, since we have that drive to just want to do more and more and more.
Yep.
Being patient is really just easier said than done when you are sitting on, $50 million and you're like, okay, what's the next move?
Right.
So you exited at 87 million. What was your next move after that?
So it was very sudden, right? Had no plan on that happening. So it was kind of a panic of what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
So I just hit the road, going to events. I mean, I had, most people that are in sales are reading sales books. I was reading about real estate, about trading. I mean, I knew I wanted to be in this world eventually. I had a limited mindset in terms of, I was like, well, I didn't graduate college. I didn't go to Goldman Sachs. I don't have an MBA from Wharton. Like, I don't have any of the stuff that hedge fund guys have. So I just thought it just wasn't possible. But I still like hit the road. I wanted to get around these people, spend a bunch of money on masterminds to find all the people I work with now.
Yeah, that's important.
That's awesome.
That's something that we need to start doing more. I think a lot of people think it's a ruse, and a lot of people think that the masterminds are scams. But I would completely disagree with that, because you're getting, just this right here, just this communication here, and this is the reason why I started this podcast, was to get around people like yourself.
Yeah.
And it's worked. We've done endless deals with people who have come on this podcast, real estate deals, business deals. We would have never got involved with Game Day if we didn't have Jeff on the podcast. Yeah. And now we're talking an equity deal. You know what I mean? Real estate as well. I'm in the middle of a couple flips right now. And the reason for that is because I had one of probably the best real estate guy, in the country. His name's Kyle Sabeth. He's an absolute machine. We're doing a deal together now because he was on the podcast, and we had the same interests. We saw that we were both very driven, and we said let's make something happen. So I think it's super important to surround yourself with people like that, because you never know where it's going to lead. You never know where this conversation is going to lead.
You're always one relationship away from a completely different life.
Completely different. Yeah.
So have you had that we've made it aha moment, or do you still feel like, always leveling up is always a part of it, but you got to give yourself some credit.
I'm nowhere near it. And I think part of the problem is, and this is something that I think about a lot, is the diminishing returns of happiness. Like the more successful you become, and the more of the possibilities of the world you see, the harder it is to be happy.
Wow. Just our last
100%.
Podcast said that.
We just we're doing a $4.5 billion real estate development deal right now, right? Which should be like really awesome.
Yeah.
But my partner's got a jet. I don't, and I'm like,
we can hook you up with someone.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can hook you up with someone.
The benchmark changes, and it's not like that I need a jet or any of these things, but it's like, if you can, you must.
Yeah.
And I know I can probably do it. So it's like, I got to go for it now.
Yeah.
So you just keep it started with single families, right? Then it was multifamily. Like I had invested in about 1,700 units of multifamily before, as a limited partner, before going into being a GP on these deals and actually getting my own funds going. And now my partner, Scott Boroff, did $1 billion on Wall Street before going to the private side. He's taken multiple companies public on the New York Stock Exchange, and we're about to do that with one of our companies right now.
Exciting.
We're less than a year out from uplisting. I'm going to ring the bell on the New York for the first time. It's like some of the things I'm doing right now are just, I don't even believe it,
Yeah, it is.
It happens so fast because I was willing to just be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah, dumb enough to believe you can do it.
Yeah, and just showing up in weird places where it's like, should I even be here? It's like, I know that billionaire, like that. You
got to be open to receive it, and you were, so it's happening.
Yeah.
So do you think you went to school for music, but do you think you're ever going to find yourself in that space? Because you have to have passion along with work. Like, that's one thing that we talk about often. Like, we work 24/7, 7 days a week, but how do you put in your passion to keep yourself alive and happy when you're not making deals?
Yeah, I would call it seasons, When I stopped music, the guitars, all the equipment, it all just sat there and collected dust. I wouldn't even touch it because I just can't half-ass anything. If I'm not all in, I just don't want to do it at all. So the way I kind of thought about it was like, okay, music is something that feeds my soul like nothing else. But in order to enjoy it the way I want to enjoy it, I have to build indestructible freedom and all these things first.
Right.
So it's the kind of thing where I'm like, I know I'm going to get to a point where I'm like, all right, it's time. I'm going to pull back a little bit from how hard I go in the businesses and, spend time doing music.
Yeah.
But it'll be, for me, it won't be to create a business or do anything with money,
Yeah, good. That's good.
So you currently serve as the Capital Advisor Chair for Safe Space Global.
Yep.
You're managing partner at Kerns Capital, and you have a fund manager. How do these roles complement each other, and what drives you to have so many different hats in the investment space?
Yeah, so I think that's a common theme too, is now I can do all these multiple things because of the skill sets and the efficiency. It's like don't do that in the beginning. I see a lot of people that haven't built anything yet that are trying to do 5 different things. It's like you got to do one thing until you have that parabolic moment. So now it's different things. So yeah, it's hard to explain, but for Safe Space, I sit on the board as the capital advisory chair. I'm also investor relations. I was brought in to do a friends and family raise. We needed to put $10 million on the balance sheet. Company has no debt. We didn't need to raise the money, but we're public on the over-the-counter market. We need to uplist to the New York, and you got to just check these boxes. And one of them is you got to have a certain amount of burn rate on your balance sheet. So through a connection with, and this is a huge lesson. If I hadn't built my brand on social media, like if I didn't have a big Instagram, I would have never been recruited for this role.
Wow.
Right. So that happened. These guys fly out to Vegas. They're like, we want you to come in, be our capital advisory chair, help us raise this $10 million. We did it in 3 weeks. And, I got a lot of shares in that company to work for 3 weeks, if you really think about it, right? Yeah. So now there's not much in the day-to-day there. On the investor relations side, it's just talking to big investors. We start to line up the institutions and those relationships that are going to come into play once we uplist onto the New York. Because when you're on the pink sheets, the over-the-counter markets, registered investment advisors can't tell their clients to buy the stock. Institutions can't buy it. It's really just a word-of-mouth game until you can uplist.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's what I do there. At Pitch Equity, I'm the fund manager. So that's where we're doing the Bend in Chattanooga right now. That's the $4.5 billion deal. So we're just my partner, Coach Michael Burt and Scott Boroff. They're generating leads, speaking on stages, bringing them in. I'm getting on the phone with these guys raising the money. So we just raised about $3 million in the past 2 months for that deal, and then we're about to do a $25 million raise on the debt side. So we got equity and debt on that deal. Got it. Scott's working on underwriting the deals, looking at hundreds of deals. But I mean, you wouldn't believe how good these deals are. I mean, the state of Tennessee gave us over $100 million in tax incremental financing for the Bend.
Wow.
And just to give you an idea, the CBRE appraisal just for the land comes in at $131 million. We bought at a $26 million valuation.
Wow.
So if you're a limited partner and you come in and put $225,000 in for 1% of the project, you have $1.3 million of equity on day one.
Wow.
Like, find me a deal that good,
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So what got you into real estate? What was your first real estate deal?
In the beginning, it was just grinding, eating peanut butter and jelly, saving enough money for the down payment on the first condo.
Yeah.
And I would just live in it for a year and then turn it into a rental, do the same thing, just be frugal because I wasn't earning a lot. I kind of had that limited mentality of that, you save money instead of earn money. But that got me the first couple properties. Then it was a townhouse, and then it was, multifamily. We can roll this into that. And and then eventually it was, okay, now we need to raise capital to do bigger deals. And it's just a natural progression of just being curious in the process. If you're hungry for results, you're just going to quit,
Yeah, there's a ton of 3 families, 4 families around here. That's like one of the biggest investment opportunities in this area. And we're working on our first deal we're looking at a 4-plex. Same thing. I'm going to get in, build equity, end up refinancing, do it again. And I think that's going to be my doorway into real estate. How do you think the market is right now? Do you think it's a buyer's market?
It's turning into it.
Yeah.
I think the bigger elephant in the room is just that affordability is more stretched than it was in 2006, 7, 8. Asset values to the cost of capital are the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
So, but you don't have the inventory issue you had with phony underwriting back in that. So it's a different type of bubble, but it's definitely a bubble.
It's definitely a bubble.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me about buying right now is getting in at these interest rates, buying. We're looking at a property right now for $700,000. What happens if that bubble does pop and I'm stuck now with a $300,000 valuation of a house and I paid $700,000 for it? I mean, you're backwards.
Yeah.
And, how do you get out of that?
I personally wouldn't be buying, just because I see what goes on in the big fund world. There's billions and billions of dollars that have been raised into what's called blind pool funds, right? That are just sitting there in cash, waiting for to swallow up the market. And if you look at Freddie Mac delinquencies are already over.
Yeah.
The last real estate crash, and but that's all in commercial. Like multifamily is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here like watching the Fed and Powell, and it's like there's over $1 trillion of commercial debt that needs to get refinanced that's between, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5%. That's gonna, like right now it would be 7, 8% on those mortgages, and all those deals would be upside down.
Oh, wow.
So you're looking at potentially the biggest bank defaults since the financial crisis, and that's why I'm sitting here thinking they have to bring rates down. Like Jerome Powell has to know that rates have to come down to avoid this crisis.
We're waiting. Every time he pops his head up, we're like, what is he going to do it? Is he going to do it?
Yeah, so I'm just being patient with it, but at the same time, it's all about a deal. There's always a good time to buy a good deal, right? We're not going to not develop the bend right now. Like it's going to, real estate would have to crash 80% for us to break even. So, that's always a good deal to do. If you got the equivalent would be if you had a $577,000 house and you could buy it for $100,000 right now, would you do it?
Yeah.
You do that all day, no matter what the interest rates are.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. If the numbers make sense, then, a deal ultimately comes down to the numbers, no matter what it is, really.
Yeah.
How involved did you get in the stocks? Did you ever get into day trading?
Yeah, I did that for a long time.
So you know resistance, supports, what was your method and what was some of the indicators you saw on a let's just say a short? Like what did you have to see as far as indicators?
I wasn't very good at it. I was more of a fundamental value stock buying, just because the technical side of it, I just didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah,
like,
that's a lot.
And I know I'm not a great trader.
And honestly, half the time you can have 5 indicators showing that it's a long, and that thing just does the complete opposite. So I think, to a point, following trends and technical analysis, it doesn't really work to my, especially lately, we have not been doing good.
Fun.
I've been trading Bitcoin, and Trump, that whole Trump and Elon thing that happened the other day. I mean, I was in a long at 101. No, I'm sorry, at 108, and that tweet dropped, and it just went down to 101. I got freaking liquidated, hit my stop loss, and I got killed.
Yeah, my perspective on it is, because now I'm in the fund world. Like we had a trading fund, and we went fund to fund with some of that allocation in that fund to Forte Capital Group, and they've got $5 billion under management. Like we're talking robust trading desks full of analysts, and then you kind of zoom out now, like when we have them trade for us, and I see how that works, and I'm like, why? Like anybody thinks they can beat these guys as a retail trader?
Yeah.
Like you're up against
it's nearly impossible
billion-dollar institutions that have all the firing power, all the algorithms. It's just a losing game. So I'm never going to trade, but I will start a fund, raise a bunch of capital, and send it to the smartest people in the world to trade.
So when you raise capital, are you putting people in stocks that you believe in long term, like Palantir, Nvidia?
We were in Palantir for that ride. Yeah.
For a retail investor right now, what would be the first? Say somebody has $10,000 looking to put in the market.
Yeah.
What would you, not I guess advise, but what would you do with that $10,000?
I wouldn't invest $10,000.
Too small of an amount?
Yeah, I think that's from a money mindset. I think this is a really important point. If you start to invest when you have $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, what do we think we're going to make on that? If you knock it out of the park and you make a double, what do you got, 20 grand?
There's not enough skin in it.
Right. So it's actually going to really hurt you from the mindset perspective to even think you're ready to be an investor. You need to take that 10 grand, figure out how to go make more money with it, or invest in a skill or a mastermind or whatever. Like if you can't put 100 grand in something, it is not time to be an investor.
So that's your number is at least start with 100?
I say that because that's the barrier to entry for private placement, right? Like most private deals, the minimum's 100 grand, like good deals, right? And you have to be an accredited investor. So for me, until you are an accredited investor by the SEC terminology, everything you should be doing is investing and becoming a person who earns enough to be an accredited investor, and then you should start thinking about being an investor.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
That makes sense.
What do you think of AI, the direction AI is going? Do you think that AI is going to help retail traders? Do you think that that's going to have a big place in the stock market?
I think it already does to a certain extent, but all these algorithms and all these bots and things, I think if it's available to the public, like the easier the access is,
the less of a chance you have.
Right. It's just like if you buy the S&P 500, you get 8% a year over time. Right. It's not very hard to buy it, so the returns are compressed. So the easier the access, it's just
such a good
the less
point.
the returns are. Yeah. So, and if they're selling you a big dream, like these bots that do 30, 40, 50%, but all you have to do is download it and, put your money in it, like It works until it doesn't. Like,
those
there's not
bots
a
are
single
crap.
one of those that isn't going to go to zero at some point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's just no free lunches out here.
Yeah. What are your top 5 like favorite stocks right now that you're looking at?
I only have one, and I'm biased because I'm in it and I'm in the company, but it's SSGC.
SSGC.
Yeah, we're up over 100% in the last week.
Let's see.
Wow. Ash, pull that up. SSGC. What is
Safe
that?
Space Global.
Oh,
So
Safe Space.
We're an
Let's go.
AI SaaS company. Yeah.
Really? So, so Safe Space, just a quick brief, what exactly does Safe Space do?
So it's ambient technology. So it's using cameras with AI to solve problems. So let's take a senior care facility. Like right now, dementia patients wear these Wander Guard bracelets, and they don't know why they're wearing them. They cut them off. They fall. They get out of the facility. They get hit by a car. It's a big problem, right? So if the AI camera is looking, it does fall detection. If they fall, it could be 8 hours where someone's laying on the floor with a broken hip, you know? It'll send a text message and a video to whoever it needs to go to.
And this is directly connected to their phone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not a bracelet or anything. It's
Oh, no, it's just a camera sitting up on the ceiling, right?
Oh, okay, got it.
Right, and it's also in the hallway. So if you have, let's say, it's using facial recognition to say, okay, this is a nurse, it'll open the door. They can get where they need to go.
Can you tap into existing security systems?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. So it's doing that facial recognition. If it's a dementia patient, it'll lock that door before they can get in and out. The same way, if it's a gun approaching a school, it can detect that and lock a school down before a shooting takes place.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So here's something just to understand about the pink sheet market, right? Institutions like Citadel, they come in and short this thing. So we have to have market makers to battle the institutions that want to short sell our stock because it's such a low amount of float at this point because we're not on one of the major exchanges. It's easy to manipulate the stock. So when you see that big spike that went over $1,
Yeah.
that was short covering by hedge funds shorting our stock.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we just did. We had a big investor event. We did this big push. And, there's a ton of retail buying in the stock. Now we're getting momentum. A lot of people are hearing about the company. And they're getting involved in the story. They're doing the research, and people are talking about on stock twits, like all these forums.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get the recognition we deserve. So we need to get this stock to $2. That's the number for us to uplist onto the New York Stock Exchange, and we want to get that done in less than a year.
Have you heard of D-Wave? D-Wave is Ash, pull up D-Wave really quick. Martin Shkreli is shorting it right now. He's getting capital from like everybody he knows. I think he's a fascinating person to watch just because he's just out of his mind, but he's a very, very smart guy. So it's quantum computing, right? Which I think is a bubble in itself. I think quantum computing is just I know this company right here has created like 6 different computers that like literally don't work, and they're promising you that quantum does this, quantum does that, but like in the overall scheme of things, I don't think anybody really knows what quantum does yet.
It's early.
Yeah,
It's very early. I couldn't even begin to even comment on it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the fundamentals of like, yeah, we're AI, but like we're a physical use case.
but
Right.
AI is
Yeah.
different than quantum.
Yeah.
AI is already serving massive use case, and like I think AI has such potential in growing in so many different areas. I utilize it every day in everything that I do. So it's how has that helped you in business and using AI? Are you using ChatGPT a lot?
Constantly.
Yeah, me
as
too.
as investor relations, I got to send out newsletters. I got to
Bang.
I do all kinds of research. Like the one I put out last week was all ChatGPT research on why AI SaaS companies command a much higher multiple than a SaaS company in the marketplace, right? And why you can justify like where the stock should be, even just if you have AI at all implemented in your business, you can go 25x multiple versus a SaaS at a 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What's your number one tip for somebody trying to raise capital for the first time?
You got to just step in it and own it. Well, you got to have good deals.
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility. I think that's the first thing. Taking money from other people, you got to do your research. And I would say don't ever take $1 from somebody who's not accredited. That's probably the first thing to learn. It's all good until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be raising capital and you're going to be doing private placement deals, it's only a matter of time until one goes bad. I don't have a mentor or a person that's further along than me that doesn't have bigger losses than me.
Yeah.
And that was a huge misconception I had. I was like, well, if I ever lose a deal, my reputation's ruined. It actually qualified me to be in the room with all the real guys.
Yeah, so you handle it differently now. You handle setbacks and failures on a different mentality level than in the past.
Completely. Yeah.
So are you helping with the marketing on with Kerns? What does Kerns do? And is that your role with Kerns, is marketing?
Yeah, so, well, it's a marketing business. So
Okay.
Kerns Marketing technically started back in 2015-16. Cody Kerns was the founder. He was on Grant Cardone's show. That's how he got his start. So he started in marketing, pretty much invented the growth space of Instagram growth.
Really?
Yeah, they crushed it. He was a multi-millionaire in his mid-20s.
Isn't it incredible, like, seriously, how much you can brand on Instagram and, like, what it's turned into?
Mm-hmm.
Resume.
It's absolutely it's something I never really saw coming. Facebook was always like a cool tool and stuff, but like once they started really pushing like meta ads and just when people started figuring out like, wow, this is actually something that we can build into a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw people just go from 0 to 100 just because they were able to build a good brand through Instagram. I'm
the perfect example of it. I remember hiring Cody to build my brand. That's how we met. I was looking for somebody. I knew I had to do this. And, I'm a little older, like they're 10 years younger than me. I was looking I'm like, these kids are making millions of dollars from their phones.
Seriously.
I'm like, I got to learn what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, I went to his event, hired them. They built my brand. And I thought I was going to do it for health coaching, which was great. I got that business of 20, 30 grand a month, like real quick. And then realized it just wasn't what I wanted to do in terms of it didn't have the scale. Like a coaching business is never going to be a hedge fund.
True. Yeah, that's true.
But Cody was like, hey, I'm going to start this hedge fund. And we had an opportunity to go fund to fund to launch with a big institution just because of one relationship. And our first raises in private equity were for companies like SpaceX and Flexport and multi-billion-dollar companies that we would get small allocations. They'd go, I think, Innovation X's position if SpaceX is 500 million, they're like, hey, you can raise 3 million, which is great though. Like we're in the door, like that really put us on the map to start raising money because we had access to some of the best deals on the planet.
So when you have a company like SpaceX or Starlink and they are in the beginning stages, because they're not public yet, correct?
Private, right?
They're private. So how does a retail investor get involved with, getting involved in a company like that? Because I think right now, SpaceX and Starlink are probably two of the biggest companies that are going to be huge.
Well, SpaceX owns Starlink.
Right.
So that was part of the, I guess you could say, pitch about why people wanted it was, here's the valuation of SpaceX. It also comes with Starlink and Starship, and you own the shares of that too, but you're buying it at just the valuation of SpaceX, right? And then the plan was that Starlink's going to spin off, right? So you would... in that scenario, if Starlink spin off or went public and SpaceX stayed private, you would have public shares here and still own your equity privately over here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Getting access to private shares is very difficult to get. You got to be a qualified purchaser, which means 5 million or more to even get a sniff at that as an individual. So the way we look at it is say, okay, if we go with an SPV, which is called a special purpose vehicle, onto Innovation X and they're on the cap table, that's a way for us to go to retail investors that want in on these unicorn companies at as small as 100 grand. And then we pull all that together and say, okay, here's our 3 million as an entity and an SPV. And then we go onto their cap. Yeah. So that's kind of how we do it. So we're like, all right, we're brand new, we're small, we don't have a track record. We need to leverage another firm's 20-year track record with billions under management to get started, and it worked really well.
What do you think about Elon and like what he's doing as far as the companies that he's put out? Like, how does he do it? How does
he's related to Starlink as well, right?
Yeah.
He's the owner there, so I wonder if that's going to be impacted as well. I mean, just because of his beef with our president.
I don't even know if that's real. It's like I literally don't even pay attention to it.
Either,
It's just
I actually couldn't believe that happened like that. That was quick. It was like I turned my head and I was like, wait, they're doing what? What is going on right now? JD Vance was on a podcast with Theo Vaughn while it happened.
Yeah.
And Theo like started talking about it and JD was like, oh yeah, and also Kash Patel. Kash Patel was on Rogan. Yeah. And the tweet came out while Patel was on Rogan. Rogan said it live, and he was like, you could see how uncomfortable Patel was. He was like, I'm not even commenting on that. That's something way above my pay grade, which is interesting to hear from the director of the FBI.
Yeah, because it's true.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because while people are focused on that, like we were on Capitol Hill 3 weeks ago with Kash Patel and Dr. Oz and Marsha Blackburn, because she's the Tennessee representative for the Safe School bill that we're with Safe Space. Like we're working with them.
Wow.
So it's like while people are worried about that, like we're just focused on our businesses.
I feel like those are put out there to distract the general public. Anyways, I think big things. It feels like a soap opera, like As the World Turns. So 85% of our population is focused on drama, while the other half are still working and creating wealth. It's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Give some advice for somebody who's got $1 million. They want to invest it. Create a pie chart on where you would put that investment.
$1 million is not a lot of money. I think that's the first thing to just kind of baseline here, right? A lot of people are going to keep a lot of cash in money markets. I don't agree with that. The only reason why you would take 4% in a money market is because you don't know how to get a yield in the private world, right? So I would say, okay, how much active income do you have? If that went to zero, is your family going to have to change their life, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been through this, right? Biggest mistake I ever made was have too much equity in things and not enough cash flow passively.
Too much equity in something that isn't creating enough cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a multi-millionaire and have to sell my house because I can't pay the mortgage because I had a business go bad and I lost 7 figures of income overnight, and it's like, oh cool, I'm in 1,000 units of apartment complexes that I can't get that money out, right? So I think you don't want to be a cash poor millionaire. That's where I ended up. So I think investing for stable cash flow is probably smarter than equity in the beginning, so that you just baseline, you take all the stress out of it. So I would probably take half that money, put 500 grand in a debt fund. Like we have a debt fund that pays 12% a year. It's like a bond. It's backed by land that has massive equity and it pays monthly, right? And that's another thing is if our bills come every month, why don't we invest in a way that pays the bills? Right? No one's ever thought about investing that way. It's like, I got a bill here. Why don't I invest in something that pays the bill every month?
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about what a debt fund is for people that don't know?
Yeah. So what it means is that we pay a fixed note, right? So the terms on our debt fund, we pay 1% a month, 12% a year. So if you put 100 grand in, you're getting $1,000 a month, right? I think that's the math. Yeah, it is. 1,000.
So 10 grand, you're getting 1,000 a month. So 100 grand, you're getting 10,000 a month.
No, that'd be 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is 1% a month, 12% a year.
Got it.
Right? It's a 5-year term, so the money's in for 5 years. The end of year 5, we give you your principal back plus a 24% kicker. So it's like having like an equity exit. So you take the internal rate of return there, it's 16.34%. Versus if you went cash in a money market, you made 3 to 4% every year.
And your money's just stagnant.
Right.
Wow.
So
how is the bank making money through that? If they're
well, we're not a bank, right? So we're a private institutional fund.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take that capital that we know we have to pay 12% on, or 16, let's say, and then we're going to go buy a cash flowing business that makes 30%.
Real estate.
We're going to buy real estate. We're going to buy, and this is what's called a blind pool fund. You put your money in, and then we go acquire assets that pay you and, the spread that we want to take on top of it.
Wow,
Okay.
that's incredible. That's such a. Did you ever
Creative
expect yourself
financing.
to do this stuff?
Weirdly, no, I didn't think I'd ever get a shot at it, but I was so obsessed with learning it that when the opportunity was there, I was ready for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the key things that made you learn this stuff? Was it a lot of research on YouTube? Was it a lot of mentorship? A lot of events that you went to? Like just surrounding yourself with the right people?
And I think it was just books.
Yeah.
The early days. I mean, I read every real estate book I could find. I read every stock book I could find. Every life insurance. I just was so curious about wealth and money. But it came from a place of paranoia. I did not want to be the person that made the money and didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to reverse engineer that process because every founder, wealthy person I know has lost their net worth.
Yeah.
Sometimes a couple times.
A couple times, yeah.
And, I watched my dad go through that, like lose, build $30 million company in the 90s, lose it all, and then do it again and lose it. And I'm like, I got to be prepared for this. And ironically, it doesn't matter how much you're prepared. It happened to me anyways. So, it's very humbling. It's like you can prepare all you want. If you're going to play high stakes, like there's going to be swings.
Yeah. So we can expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And listen, it's happening at a little bit of a smaller level, but it does happen. I mean, you put all your eggs in one basket, and if that thing does not do what it's supposed to do, then you're kind of starting off at ground zero again. You got to build it up again. And, I think that's some of the, for me, living is all about having something to chase, that goal that you can hit every day. I think, you're not growing unless you have that. And sometimes that takes failure. I mean, some of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in life was from failure. I actually am very, I'm very fortunate for my failures because I've learned so much through them. This whole process that I've, became an entrepreneur has only been, it's been about 3 years. Before that, I've always been working for somebody, helping other people build companies. And I finally made the decision to just do it. I said, I all the tools that I've learned over the years, I'm going to take and just go do it on my own. So, we put a couple things in place. We made goals, and the consistency to hit those goals. We're at it every day. Every day we just don't stop until we feel, and I don't think it's ever good enough. Every night she's like, you gotta like give yourself some credit.
Like 2
but it's just like,
at least turn the phone off at 2.
Yeah, man. It's just those nights where it's just like, every night it gets obsessive. I think that's part of just in my DNA. I always want to do more. I always want to do better and make sure the people around me are good,
I had to take the big loss to get out of that. Because, and if you get a chance to listen to the story of Bill Ackman and losing
Ackman.
$4 billion.
Yeah. That was during the short, right?
That was
Herbalife short.
The Pershing Square. Yeah. I mean, how do you get started again?
I know.
Like looking up at that mountain, that's the feeling I had when our first fund blew out. And I lost quarter of my net worth, but I lost all my income, and it was catastrophic, right? And the weight of, there was a lot of other people that lost a lot of money that trusted me. That was,
that's the hardest part, is disappointing the people who really put that trust in you to begin with.
If you told me before I went through it that I was going to go through it, I would have probably bet everything that I wouldn't have made it. Wouldn't have been able to handle it, would have crumbled. But the best part about really tough times is you get to find out who you are.
Yeah, man.
You don't know who you are until
you get to find out the people around you who they are.
Oh,
too.
all of it. And then you're looking up at this mountain you need to reclimb, and it seems so far away that it's what Bill Ackman says, it's just small progress every day, and then you become less of a slave to the urgent. There's no amount of the emails I can answer at 2 a.m. that's going to put me back on this mountaintop. It's going to take me years anyways. I just got to be more patient with it. And what I realized was I was grinding so hard and I was so ambitious for the next level, I completely missed the ride, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's so true. That I'm so happy you said that, because it's really, you have to give yourself a pat on the back at least once or twice and enjoy it. It is an enjoyment. Like the falls, the climbs, all of it is part of the memory of becoming who you are. And if you don't slow down and enjoy those moments, we're going to be old soon. Like, we're going to be like, wait a minute, I did that and I didn't even take time to like relish in it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
glad
when
you said it. You
when I
have
went
to.
from my dream house back to a condo to rebuild, there was something beautiful about it.
Yeah.
Like, like, all right, I'm still here. I'm not dead. I'm
Yep.
rebuilding. I've done this before. I can do it again. Of course, you're feeling all kinds of pressure, and it's a lot to go through.
It is, yeah.
But you learn something. It's like, I wasn't happy there because I was trying to go here, and then I'm regretting this and that, and it's like, this is a big problem because I will just die unhappy.
Yep.
Right? So now I have a completely different perspective on goals and all this stuff. Like, I don't worry about goals. Like, sure, you have your dreams, that's fine, and your ambitions, but I don't think about it. All I think about now is my next 24 hours of execution. Nothing else matters. What happened yesterday, what's going to happen tomorrow, it's irrelevant. All you need to do is worry about today, and then you can actually be in the process.
Yeah. And in the present, that's living.
And you
in the
can't
present.
control anything else anyways except for what's right in front of you today.
And
Yep.
you can't control
So
tomorrow.
forget the outcomes. They're like, well, when do you want to hit the target? Like with Safe Space, like we want to uplist on the New York Stock Exchange and hit $2. Like, when are we going to hit it? When are we going to hit it? They're asking me. I'm like, I don't know. Whenever God decides we're going to hit it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do everything I can today that I can control. I cannot control the outcome.
Yeah.
So why even worry about it?
What are some of the things that you do to keep balanced? What are some of the things that you do in your personal life, working out, the way you eat, peptides? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm heavy on the health, but I'm also heavy on the enjoy life, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like meal prep all day, go out to dinner, eat whatever you want, you know? I really enjoy dinners, you know? Nice steakhouses, like that experience. That's part of the reason why I moved to Vegas. I mean, I got the
Really?
best restaurants in the world there. But I think it's just an 80-20 rule with everything. I don't want to get too extreme again. You know, I did 75 hard, and I wanted to get, like, cut everything out, be perfect. It's like, cool, I can see my abs, but I'm miserable. Like, can we go get a steak? You know?
We did it.
I can say right now that I am right there. You know what I mean? I got the abs. I'm cool, man. But I'm just like, I want to eat. I want to do what I want to do. It's just
yeah, within reason, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Within reason.
you know, you can't go too extreme in any direction. I think that's the biggest thing. But definitely optimize the best you can. Like the peptide world is just the most revolutionary thing there is. I mean, we could talk about that all day.
So like people optimize their life in different areas, right? It's like we optimize by putting good systems in place. Like you have a good SOP running behind a good business, you're going to do well. You're going to take that from being able to operate just at kind of like a regular business. By implementing AI and good SOPs, you're going to catapult that business. Put in the branding, put in the marketing, you lift your Instagram, all that stuff. People are now doing that, and I see with their personal body. You know, if you check your levels and your test levels are low, why not optimize them and be able to get yourself to a point where you're optimizing at your best self? Because that is going to make you operate in the business that you do. It's gonna catapult it, just like putting in a good SOP.
Yep.
So. Who do you work with right now? You were talking before we went live. You work with
it's Vivo Health Solutions. Yep.
So they take your blood work. They see. Was there a time where your test levels were low? Like, what did you do to get yourself optimized?
Yeah. So this is just another thing: is most people walking around, they don't know, right? Data is direction.
Yes.
Right. It's just
That's
so
really good
important.
quote.
Like the ignorance of how long I waited because I just didn't know any better. But a guy I was working out with, Dave Shuttler, was like, "Hey, man, like he could probably tell by like I can tell now when I look at somebody, like if they got low T, right?
You can too.
Like,
He
I can
sniffs
tell.
them out.
Dude,
It's funny.
Yeah,
Dude, we had somebody come here to tell. It was absolutely hilarious. It's just it was a kid that I stood next to him, and I even said to him, I said, "Dude, I think you got to get your test levels checked."
Within 5 seconds of meeting this person.
yeah.
I could just tell. I could feel it that he was just, you know, he couldn't make eye contact. Every step I got closer to him, he was backing up.
Backed up. It
There was just like
incredible.
certain signs where I was like, you know, not saying that you need to do those things, but like there's certain things that I can pick up to where you're like, okay, you're not optimizing at your full potential, because I just know from experience that your testosterone levels can affect you in so many different ways. The confidence, to be honest, I think is the biggest one.
Yeah.
You know, because that can really deteriorate your confidence if you don't have high test and you're around somebody that's operating at a higher level. You can feel it.
Yep.
You know, so it's what's some of the peptides that you're currently doing?
So, all right. So I'm on the TRT. Been on that since 32.
How did that change you? How did that change?
Oh, I mean, my face changed. I was the same height, 165 pounds. Had less than 200 on my levels. It was horrific.
I was down to 84 at one point.
Ooh, yeah, like it was bad. I had no testosterone. What I didn't realize was, and it was probably a good thing because of the skill sets it developed, but when you have testosterone that low, you have no drive, right?
No ambition. You're tired,
It was straight
depressed.
discipline. Like everything was difficult. Didn't want to go to the gym. Didn't want to go to work. Didn't want to make the calls. Didn't want to do anything. And I still did it at a level that was better than everybody else. So I think that there's something to be said for that. But then when I got on TRT and got, levels between 500 and 1,000, like nothing crazy, but like a good zone. I mean, I'm 185, like that. You know, my face kind of looked a little more manly. My voice, I didn't sound like a girl anymore. I mean, it's like massive changes, and you can go down all the way to my Instagram to like 5+ years ago and see like that is not the same human being.
Wow.
You know, so that was major. I like the like BPC 157s, the most basic.
Huge.
Love it.
TB 500, BPC.
Yep, Wolverine protocol. I had a shoulder injury, wouldn't go away. They hit me with that. Gone overnight, and I've just been a soldier since. And now I'm on like Tessamorelin.
Yeah, that's what we're on
just
too.
You know,
started
get the
that.
HGH
How
going.
crazy is that?
Wonderful.
Tessamorelin melted my stomach away.
Yeah.
2 weeks, we could see the difference because we've
Yep.
been on a massive health journey for the last 2.5 years, And that was just the one area that was super struggling in. 2 weeks of tesamorelin, and you could visually see the difference. It's
Do you do the
100%.
ipamorelin mix, the tesamorelin mix, just the straight tesamorelin?
That and GHRP2. I did that one.
Which one is that?
It's another pituitary gland stimulator. They do it differently, right? Like somorelin, tesamorelin is going to be a different type of
totally
visceral fat versus the other. But I just I work with Josh over at Vivo, and he's always adjusting my protocol, and depending on what your goals are too, you can do. The world's nuts.
Yeah, I know.
Depends how
I love
deep you want to go.
Yeah.
But
Dude, they have. We just started one. Well, she did. I didn't really like the way it made me feel the first day, so I was like, I might try it. What is that called again?
Which one?
PHP.
PT.
No, not that one. The one that mimics cardio 24/7.
Oh, I have to look that up.
SLU. Ash, pull that up really quick.
Is it
SLU peptide.
that's a new one for me. I don't think I've heard of that one.
Dude,
It's supposed to be like you take it and your body's working out without working out. Like it prolongs that workout.
right here. So
That's interesting.
SLU-PP, also known as the exercise. I can't see that peptide.
Mimic peptide.
Is a synthetic small molecule that advocates estrogen-related blah, blah, signaling pathways. So it mimics the effects of exercise, and by increasing energy expenditure, fat burning, and mitochondrial biogenesis.
I'd have to see how it works, because that matters to me, right?
Yeah.
Like the tesamorelin is stimulating your pituitary gland to naturally release more HGH. So I'm like, okay, it's just a stimulator to get more natural
Right,
HGH, right?
Yep.
It's not like the synthetic, I don't know. I'd have to
It's
look into it
waking
to
it
see
up.
if I'm
It's
good
turning
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
Because there's
They
a
have
line.
it-
Some of this stuff, I'm like, nah, it's too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a guinea pig, man. I'm like, whatever. Let's just try it. See
Or
what
like
happens.
GHKCU. Have you taken that one?
Not yet.
I think you're on that.
No, I'm.
We're not on 100 things, by the way, because it sounds like we
These,
are.
like that one,
It's like,
similar,
oh,
Yeah.
stimulates collagen production, right?
Well,
Hair,
and-
skin, nails.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's what you're on.
what I
Right,
just
makes your
started.
skin a little more plump. So like, I don't want to put Botox in my face. I've never done that, by the way, for the record. But I'll do GHKCU, and it's
Yeah.
a natural version of it.
It's blue, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm only
the
a
copper
week.
peptide.
I'm
Yeah.
a week into it. I'm happy. And then there's this other one we started. Well, it's not a
PT.
we. It's PT, but it stimulates the brain, so it's a sexual peptide.
Oh,
Instead
it's a lot
of
of
like
Sounds like it. It's a
lot of
Cialis opens up the veins, so you're getting blood flow all throughout your body. But this
Right.
one is specifically developed for women, but men can use it too. But it's incredible because it goes directly to your brain and it switches on what it needs to, and then everything becomes more
It's like a
imagery.
straight libido booster.
It's a libido booster, but it's stimulating your brain, not other areas.
Okay.
So it's a libido in your brain stimulator, which is like you were saying.
I think
like
this is called
things that
Molly.
turn-
It's basically
it's
feels
Molly
like
without
that. Man. Seriously.
without the extra. Molly is too much serotonin, so this isn't serotonin. It's going directly to the part of your brain that is that.
It's fun.
creates
So like
videos.
you may not
Oh.
need it, right? It's like if somebody is struggling in that department, like it's not like you need to take it because you're struggling. It just adds a little bit of
Yeah, I don't.
It's
I
an
don't.
enhancer.
I couldn't
It's an enhancer.
speak. Yeah.
I'll have to
It's fun.
do some
Um,
research on that one.
Yeah.
What do you think about like ayahuasca and stuff like that? A lot of very successful people that I know go on these retreats and they come back and it's like life changing to them. Is it something that you ever looked into?
It's something that I've thought a lot about, because you look at some of the greatest minds out there. Steve Jobs was into psychedelics, same thing with like Elon. They've all done all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
And I've never touched it. I've never done shrooms, never touched any of that stuff. But it's definitely something entertaining. I think I'm going to need like the right opportunity, the right
Yeah.
people, something like that to actually
Yeah.
get myself to do it.
Yeah.
Freaks me out a little bit, but
Yeah, me too. I don't want to. I'm scared of that stuff.
I love them. I love them, and especially with you having like a love for music. I think once you do find that safe space, you're gonna be blown away because you can use it as a tool for growth. It's not like some people use it to escape reality. Other people, you can use
it as a
it to
tool.
grow in your reality. So you take from it a huge lesson, and then the next day you apply it. Psychedelics are incredible.
yeah.
They
you know
are
how
incredible.
we store trauma and experiences in our body.
Right.
Like that's the thing that I find adventurous about it is I wonder what I'm storing I'll be able to get rid of.
You can, absolutely. I absolutely believe that. But you just have to go in with that mindset. Don't go in with that fear. Go in with, okay, I'm ready to confront some demons. I want to see what's going on in my subconscious mind. And boom, it's going to open doors, and you can utilize all those tools and really become a better self.
Yeah.
Just within 24 hours. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it change people's lives, and it calls you out on your shit. It calls you out on,
For real.
you know, if you're doing something that, you know, you may not know you're doing it, you know, in a way that you could be doing better. It opens up that mind of being like, oh man, I should call my mom more. I should, just small little things that like really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen it, you know, transform lives. So it's definitely something that, like you said, needs to be the right place, the right time. You need to be with the right people, a professional, not just like in a hotel room, like some sketchy freaking Vegas hotel room, and like some guy comes in and says, "Take this." I mean, there's ways where you can go on retreats, do it the proper way with the proper guidance, and like, you know, Jake Paul does it all the time, and he said that since he's done it, I mean, his net worth has increased like tenfold, and like, you know, just, you know, again, going back to things that can make you a better person, I'm all in for. If you can use that as a tool, don't abuse it. You know, those things can be super, super beneficial. So it's something that we're interested in, we're going to look into, but like you said, right place at the right time.
Yeah. Death's always in the dose. I mean,
Yeah.
Always.
that's like everybody who's scared of peptides or scared of this, scared of that. It's like, just don't abuse it. And,
Right.
you know, it has its place.
Be
Yeah.
smart.
Technology. Where do you think we're going? What do you think the next, you know, big wave of technology is going to be? You know, I think personally, I think it's going to be something along the lines of travel. I think, you know, if we can solve the issue of getting from Vegas to Rhode Island in an hour, you know what I mean? I think something along the lines with that. You know, I think drones are going to make a bigger leap, you know, as far as travel, maybe utilizing that. Where do you see technology going in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think the AI element with those things is going to be rapid. It's going to be a lot faster than people think.
Yeah.
It's totally possible we have a world where, you know, because the self-driving cars are way safer than humans. So, I mean, I could see you're not allowed to drive type of situation.
Yeah, me too.
And, you know, drones dropping off your packages. You order on Amazon, it's there in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
they're
boom.
doing that. They're doing
You know,
that.
all of that. Yeah, it's going to just make everything accelerated. I mean, all these jobs are going to go away, and everybody's panicking about that. And all it's going to do is just create more opportunity for people to learn how to think better. We'll probably have operational efficiencies where we can provide a universal basic income. And this is where, like, you know, politically, I just don't fit anything because I'm open to ideas all over
Same.
the place. But
Yeah.
you know, if we can get to a productive society where, you know, we're prompting these tools and it's more efficient instead of somebody having to be a slave in terms of labor, yeah, it's just better for society all around.
Yeah. It's going to open up opportunities for things that we probably can't even see right now or recognize. I think that's going to
I
be
think
huge.
we're going to see a lot of holograms. I think instead of the actual physical cell
Like,
phone, we're
AR.
just going to have, we're going to have a hologram to be able to work off of our space in front of us.
Or with
Otherwise-
Neuralink,
Or Neuralink, true.
you might just think it.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's
already happening for
wild.
sure. I feel like that is, I think like they're putting stuff into the food because there are times where I think about something,
Oh, man.
don't speak it, and it's on my phone. Neuralink's already happening.
No, listen, I'm not a huge conspiracy guy.
I
but
am.
there was, yeah, she is. It rubs off on me.
I am
guess,
too,
a
just
little
not
bit.
publicly.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
You are. So there was a night where I, you know, because I saw it happen more and more, like things just popping up on my phone that I would just think about. And it was like, this is too much of a coincidence. So there was one night where I didn't tell her. I was laying in bed just thinking about all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to think of something. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to see what happens. And it was just a hair product. I just made up something random. I said, a spray that can fill your hair, whatever, you know. The next morning I woke up, the first thing on my Instagram was a spray that fills your hair. The exact thing that I thought. Didn't say anything out loud, didn't tell her. So I don't know. Is there something that's prompting that? Are they, who knows how that's even possible? Was it a major coincidence? Probably. But
Yep.
like, you know, going down that route for the for big corporations to be able to tap into that is beyond profitable to them. So there's got to be something that, I think the direction that we're going with like TikTok, Instagram, the TikTok shop, stuff like that. I mean, what's that company that just made $1.6 billion in a day? Did you see that? It was a little puppet toy or whatever. They generated $1.6 billion in sales in 24 hours.
And it's the ugliest little toy ever.
It's just something you get at the dollar store.
Yeah, remember Beanie Babies?
Yeah.
These things happen.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. Well, I think this was an incredible podcast, man. This was one of the most enjoyable ones that I've done. I appreciate you coming on. What's next? What do you got coming up?
And we're closing out the Bend, so we're going down to Chattanooga on Friday. Doing a little site visit, show all the investors the property. So that's exciting. And the next one's going to be in Knoxville, doing a development on the water there next to the Cherokee Country Club. So
Whoa.
I'm just excited to be doing bigger deals, being a good steward of people's capital, taking Safe Space public on the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, we have people that have become millionaires just off of our stock,
Really?
Which is super rewarding. I'm getting DMs from, I got one yesterday that almost made me cry. It was an Uber driver from back in February that I was talking to about the company, and he sent me a message saying he bought the stock and it's tripled since he bought it. And he's like, you taught me so much, like, thank you, so it's just rewarding. So I just want to keep doing media, like keep doing this, just reach as many people as possible, keep building my personal brand and keep doing good things with it.
How do you search out these podcasts? Like, how did you end up coming across our podcast? And do you just reach out? Because I think I had another gentleman reach out to me that you might know.
I mean, there's probably several because Kerns Marketing, like this is what we do for our clients, and we, I do it for myself too, right? So we run DM outreach strategies instead of running ads. I did over 10 million through my Instagram, never ran an ad.
Wow.
So,
Smart.
right. So if I want to do a podcast tour, I just tell, we have a whole team of VAs and we've got SOPs and we know exactly how to make this work. And I said, I want to get booked on, 50 podcasts over the next few months. I want to just rip them. So they spend all day researching the types of podcasts I want to be on, seeing if it's worth it. And they send you a DM. And then I pick up when people answer, schedule them, and roll.
That's
so,
incredible.
Dustin Hills.
yeah. So Dustin Hillis is the president of Safe Space, and our
sick.
team at Kerns
Let's
Marketing
go.
is running his Instagram.
Awesome.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah, so we do Instagram growth, engagement. We have massive influencer networks. We're doing a campaign with Cardi B next month.
Wow.
So anybody who goes into that Cardi B campaign will get 50 to 75,000 followers off of collaborating with her.
Right.
So we leverage all this stuff to, specifically for entrepreneurial people, because social media is a professional sport now, right? The highest paid creators make more money than the highest paid professional athletes. So for you to think you're just going to create content and compete, and the algorithm's a joke. So
Creators actually make more
So
money than the owners of the
freaking real.
platforms.
right.
Yeah.
So if you want to compete with them, you're going to need strategies.
Yeah.
You're going to need to leverage other influencers and big brands to spread your content and push it. And that's how we build brands. So some of the biggest brands we've built, the content isn't even that good. It doesn't matter. Like, we can make it happen. So I think it's a pretty cool thing, because there's a lot of people who are killing it in real life and their brand online just does not serve them. So if we can build that to match it, it's not to go to 100 million followers. It's about building the online presence that authentically matches who you are in the real world.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm kind of struggling with right now, actually, is honing in on one thing on my brand, because I do so many different things. I own an HVAC company. I flip. I'm into real estate a little bit. We got the podcast. We do
Couples comedy.
couples comedy. That's one thing that's actually been a lot of fun. I don't know if you've seen that page.
No.
Ash, pull up our Instagram really quick. It's Mike Shee TV. And guys, go shoot it a follow. I mean, we're growing. We're getting millions of views overnight. Like, we had a video hit 10 million. We had a video hit 7 million. We had a video hit, here, go to it real quick.
What the hell is this? $4,000 of earrings?
Oh, you like my earrings?
Not $4,000 worth. You didn't even tell me.
Oh, well, I noticed that you were liking this girl's picture. And she's half naked, and I thought, since she's not wearing anything, it must be the earrings that you love, right? So I got the earrings that you like. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I like the nice earrings. Yeah. All right, bye.
This is a perfect example of what does work on the platform.
Yeah.
Because that's content that most people are in the market for.
Yeah.
When you make entrepreneurial content, you're talking to like
It doesn't-
1% of the platform.
It's
I
exactly why.
know.
That's why we ended up pivoting towards this. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I was putting out about my business, that people were like, whatever.
There's
You know,
a way to make it work.
I care
anyways.
about it,
Yeah.
but other people probably don't give a shit. So we're spinning a brand to kind of build off of this. It's called Bring Marriage Back, and we're just coming out with merch that says funny like marriage stuff on it, and we're gonna try to capitalize off of we're gonna try to monetize this somehow. And I think that's just to close this out. Pivoting in business is some of the most important things and the most important tool that you can learn. You may be in one space doing one thing, but if you can learn how to pivot and do multiple things in that area, you can really, the opportunity is just endless with social media. And to close it out, thank you for finding me. It was cool that you found me. The conversation was awesome. I hope a lot of people get a lot out of it. I think they will. And thank you for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you again.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Thanks, man. Thank you.